Snow fell thick across Manhattan's avenues as Ethan Cole stepped into the party lobby, his hand gripping tight to the woman he'd just hired to play his girlfriend. A single dad living behind closed doors, a lavish evening gala, and a lie that seemed harmless enough. No one in that gold-plated room knew the truth that the woman beside him was just an escort, until a billionaire leaned close to her ear and whispered a question that froze the smile on her lips, and Ethan's carefully constructed life began sliding off the safe track he'd built over so many years. The apartment was silent, except for the radiator's hiss. Ethan Cole stood at the window of his Brooklyn brownstone, watching fresh snow blanket the fire escape. February in New York always felt longer than it should, the holidays over. Spring still distant, just endless gray, punctuated by white. On the table behind him sat a pair of purple sneakers, size 2, knocked sideways near the door. Lily's. His daughter was at his mother's place for the weekend, which meant the apartment held that particular emptiness. Only a parent knows the kind that feels like holding your breath. Ethan was 34, a senior developer at a fintech startup in Midtown, and a widower. Sarah had died 3 years ago, an aneurysm that struck without warning while she folded laundry on a Tuesday afternoon. One moment, she was there. The next, she wasn't. Lily had been too. She didn't remember her mother, which somehow made everything worse. He picked up his phone. The email had arrived that morning. Asterisk. Subject: Winter Charity Gala. February 18th. Michael Harris cordially invites you and a guest to the annual Winter Charity Gala at the Plaza. Black tie. Partner recommended for senior staff. Partner recommended. Those 2 words sat in his chest like ice. The company's winter gala wasn't optional, not if you wanted to be taken seriously for the promotions that came in March. Michael Harris, his boss, and the company's chief technology officer had made that clear in their last one-on-one. Ethan, you're brilliant. Best engineer we have. But leadership wants people who fit the culture. People who, how do I put this? Look stable, settled, Code words for, not the guy who leaves at 5:30 every day to pick up his kid from daycare. Not the guy who declines after work drinks. Not the guy whose background photo is still a default blue gradient because he hasn't had time to care. Ethan didn't fear parties. He feared the looks, the soft, pitying glances from colleagues who'd tilt their heads and ask how he was managing, their voices dipping into that therapist tone. He feared the silence that would follow when someone asked about his weekend plans, and he'd say, "Just me and Lily," and they'd nod too quickly, already looking for an exit. He looked back at the snow. Lily's purple sneakers. The email. Partner recommended. He hadn't been on a date since Sarah died. There'd been one attempt to set up by his sister, a nice woman named Jennifer who worked in publishing. They'd met for coffee. She'd asked about his hobbies. He'd talked about his daughter for 40 minutes straight without realizing it. Jennifer had smiled politely and never texted back. Dating felt like relearning a language he'd once been fluent in but had somehow forgotten. Every conversation a translation, every smile a performance. Easier to just not. But the gala was in 2 weeks. And Michael Harris wasn't subtle. Last year, the 3 people promoted to principal engineer had all attended. All with partners. All looking like the kind of stable, settled adults who made good, long-term investments. Ethan exhaled slowly, his breath fogging the cold window. What if he didn't have to actually date anyone? What if he could just appear to be the person they wanted to see? Just for one night. Just enough to stop being invisible. The idea felt absurd, even as it formed. But he was tired. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of feeling like his grief was a professional liability. Tired of the weight of doing everything alone. He pulled out his laptop. opened a private browser window. Monday morning, Michael Harris stopped by Ethan's desk with 2 coffees. This was never a good sign. "Walk with me," Michael said. They ended up in one of the glass-walled conference rooms overlooking 6th Avenue. Snow still clung to the corners of the window frames. Michael set down both coffees and leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head, the posture of a man about to deliver friendly advice that wasn't actually friendly. "You got the gala invite," Michael said. "I did. You coming?" "Planning to." Michael nodded slowly. "Good. Good. Bringing someone?" Ethan hesitated. "I'm working on it. Work faster." Michael leaned forward. "Look, I'm going to be straight with you because I like you. The board's finalizing the new principal engineer roles next month. You're on the short list. Top of it, actually. But they want people who project stability. Someone they can put in front of clients. Someone who looks like they've got their life together." Michael softened his voice. "I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying it's real." Ethan stared at his coffee. "And bringing a date to a party proves I have my life together? It proves you're not just a code monkey who doesn't know how to exist outside a terminal window. It proves you're a human being with a life." That's what they want to see. The words stung because they were partially true. Ethan had become smaller over the past 3 years. Smaller in ambition, smaller in presence. He came in, did brilliant work, and left. He didn't grab drinks, didn't join the Monday fantasy football talk, didn't stay for the Thursday lunch and learns. He was a ghost who wrote excellent code. "Everyone else is bringing someone," Michael continued. "Rebecca's bringing her husband. David's bringing his fiancée. Even the interns are bringing dates. You show up alone. You're the guy who couldn't find anyone. And fair or not, that's a signal." After Michael left, Ethan sat in the empty conference room for 20 minutes, watching people move through the office like fish in a bright, busy aquarium. He thought about the last time he'd tried to date. After Jennifer, there'd been another attempt, a woman from Lily's daycare, another parent. They'd exchanged numbers. She'd texted once. He'd taken 6 hours to respond because Lily had a fever and he'd forgotten his phone existed. The conversation never recovered. He didn't have time to date. Didn't have the energy to perform normalcy for someone new. Didn't have the emotional bandwidth to explain his life, the logistics of single parenthood. The weight of grief that still caught him off guard when he smelled Sarah's favorite candle in a store. But he did need that promotion. The raise would mean better childcare. Maybe even a nanny. Someone who could pick Lily up from school so he didn't have to leave work early every day. It would mean breathing room. Just one night, he thought. Just one performance. He pulled out his phone and opened the browser he'd left running over the weekend. The website was discreet. Professional. The kind of service that called itself companionship and meant it. He scrolled through profiles, feeling vaguely sick, until he found one that seemed right. **, Vivian Stone. Elegant, intelligent conversation. Available for events. **. He clicked contact. They met 3 days later at a cafe near Central Park, one of those places with exposed brick and single-origin pour-overs that cost $8. Snow drifted past the tall windows, piling soft on the sidewalk. Ethan arrived early, chose a corner table, and immediately regretted everything. This was insane. He was going to hire someone to pretend to like him for an evening so his boss would think he was a functional adult. When had his life become a plot from a mediocre film? Then, she walked in. Vivian Stone looked nothing like her profile photo, or rather, she looked exactly like it, but somehow more real. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a simple twist, wearing a charcoal coat and no visible makeup. She moved through the cafe with the kind of quiet confidence that made people look up from their laptops. She spotted him, offered a small nod, and ordered tea before sitting down. "Ethan Cole?" Her voice was lower than he'd expected. Calm. "That's me. Vivian. She removed her coat, folded it carefully over the chair back. No handshake, no performance of warmth, just direct eye contact and a slight tilt of her head. Tell me what you need. The bluntness threw him. He'd expected. He wasn't sure what. Small talk, maybe. Some preamble. I have a work event, he said. A gala. I need a date. Why what? Why do you need a date? You seem perfectly capable of attending alone. Ethan exhaled. Outside, snow fell heavier. Office politics. I'm up for a promotion. My boss thinks I need to look more stable, and you think appearing with a woman will accomplish that. I think appearing with someone will make me look less like a guy who lives in his office. Vivian stirred her tea slowly. What happened to your last relationship? The question landed hard. That's personal. Everything about this is personal, Mr. Cole. If I'm going to play a role in your life, I need to understand the life I'm entering. Even temporarily. He studied her. There was no judgment in her face. No pity. Just professional assessment, like a doctor asking about symptoms. I'm a widower, he said finally. Something shifted in Vivian's expression, not pity, exactly. Recognition, maybe. And you haven't dated since. Tried. It didn't take. So you're hiring me to be the girlfriend you don't have time to find. I'm hiring you to stand next to me for 4 hours and make me look like someone worth promoting. Vivian was quiet for a moment, watching snow accumulate on the window ledge. Have you considered that your boss might be wrong? That you might be worth promoting regardless of your relationship status? I've considered it. But I've also watched 3 people get promoted last year, all of whom had partners. And I've watched myself get passed over despite having better performance reviews. So, this is strategy. This is survival. Vivian nodded slowly. All right. Ground rules. We build a story how we met, how long we've been seeing each other. I need details. Your daughter's name, your wife's name, what you do on weekends. I won't lie about facts, but I will lie about my relationship to you. The moment you ask me to do something that crosses a professional boundary, I walk. Clear? Clear. And you understand this is a performance. Nothing I say or do that night reflects actual feeling toward you. The words should have stung. Instead, they felt like relief. No expectations. No risk of disappointing someone real. That's exactly what I want, Ethan said. Vivian extended her hand across the table. Then we have an agreement. He shook it. Her grip was firm, cool, utterly businesslike. Outside, the snow continued to fall. They spent the next hour building the fiction of their relationship. 6 months, Vivian said, pulling out a small notebook. That's long enough to be serious, but not so long that people expect an engagement. How did we meet? Where do you go when you're not working? Ethan thought. The park. With Lily. Prospect Park, usually. Then we met there. I was reading on a bench. It was so simple it could have been true. That was the point, Ethan realized. The best lies sat closest to reality. What do you do for work? He asked. I consult. Business strategy. It's vague enough to be believable and boring enough that no one will ask follow-up questions. And we keep it quiet because you're private. Because you have a daughter and you want to be sure before introducing someone new into her life. It's reasonable, sympathetic, even. Ethan watched her write notes in careful, compact handwriting. Everything about Vivian was controlled, precise. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary emotion. What about physical contact? She asked, without looking up. What about it? People will expect it. Hand-holding. Maybe my hand on your arm. How comfortable are you with that? The question made his chest tighten. Sarah used to link her arm through his at parties, used to press her palm against his back when they talked to strangers. He hadn't been touched with casual affection in 3 years. Keep it minimal, he said. Vivian looked up. Minimal draws attention. Couples who are actually comfortable together touch without thinking. If we're stiff, people notice. Then, standard. Whatever's standard. There's no standard, Ethan. Some couples are all over each other. Some barely touch. He met her eyes. I can handle what I need to handle. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Vivian studied him for a long moment, and he had the unsettling sense that she was seeing more than he wanted to show. Finally, she closed her notebook. We'll keep it natural, she said. I'll follow your lead. If you stiffen or pull away, I'll adjust. But you need to trust me enough to let me make us look real. Can you do that? Could he? Ethan wasn't sure. Letting someone into his space, even temporarily, even falsely, felt like peeling back a bandage before the wound had healed. I can try, he said. Vivian nodded. That's all I ask. She slid a business card across the table. Just a name and a phone number. No company, no title. Text me your address. I'll arrive an hour before the car picks us up. We'll do a final run-through story. Names, details. The more prepared we are, the easier it'll be. Anything else? She paused, pulling her coat back on. Yes. Don't lie to me between now and then. If something about your situation changes, tell me. I can't play a part if the script keeps shifting. I won't lie. Good. She stood, buttoning her coat with practiced efficiency. This will work, Ethan. Just trust the process. Then she was gone, disappearing into the snow-thick afternoon, leaving him alone with 2 empty cups and a growing sense that he'd just set something in motion he didn't fully understand. The night before the gala, Vivian arrived at Ethan's apartment at 7. He'd cleaned, obsessively vacuumed, hidden laundry, even lit a candle that smelled like cedar. Then he'd blown it out, worried it seemed like he was trying too hard. When he opened the door, Vivian stood in the hallway in jeans and a sweater, her hair down for the first time. She looked younger, more human. Come in, he said. She stepped inside and immediately went still. Ethan followed her gaze. Lily's toys scattered near the couch, a wooden train set, a pile of picture books, a stuffed elephant with one ear missing. On the wall, photos in mismatched frames. Lily as a baby, Lily on a swing, Lily covered in birthday cake. And one photo, smaller than the rest, of Sarah holding newborn Lily in a hospital bed, her expression caught between exhaustion and joy. You didn't mention she's this present, Vivian said quietly. Your wife. Ethan's throat tightened. She's been gone for 3 years, but she's not gone from here. Vivian gestured at the room. Every photo. The books on the shelf, those are hers, aren't they? The parenting books, the poetry collection. He hadn't thought about it. Sarah's things had just stayed. He'd packed away her clothes after the first year, donated most of them. But her books remained. Her favorite mug still sat in the cabinet. Her handwriting on the grocery list magnet stuck to the fridge, the last list she'd ever made. Asterisk, milk, bread, call pediatrician, library books due. Asterisk, is that a problem? Ethan asked. No. Vivian set down her bag. But it's information I need. If someone asks how we navigate your late wife's memory, I need to know the answer. The directness should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like relief, like talking to someone who didn't need him to perform grief in any particular way. We don't talk about her much at work, Ethan said. People know she died. They don't know details. I prefer it that way. And with me tomorrow, if someone asks, they won't. They might. Ethan sat on the arm of the couch. Outside, snow had started again, soft against the windows. If they ask, say we've talked about her. Say you understand she's part of my life, part of Lily's life, that you're not trying to replace her. Because I'm not. Because you're not even real. The words came out harder than he meant them. Vivian's expression didn't change. No, she agreed. I'm not real. But tomorrow night, I will be. And the more I understand about your actual life, the better I can protect the version of it you're trying to show. She moved to the window, watching snow fall onto the fire escape. You're afraid, she said. It wasn't a question. Of what? Of people seeing this. The toys, the photos, the life you've actually built. You think it makes you look weak. Ethan wanted to argue, but she was right. Every time a colleague came by to drop off files, he'd apologize for the mess, for the kid stuff, for the evidence of domesticity bleeding into his professional life. I think it makes me look distracted, he said. Maybe. Vivian turned from the window. Or maybe it makes you look like someone who kept going after something impossible happened. Someone who built a life for a little girl who needed one. That's not weakness, Ethan. That's just being human. Her voice held no manipulation. No performance of sympathy. Just observation. Tomorrow, she said, when we walk into that gala, you're going to be the man who has his life together. Not because you're pretending, but because you do. You just don't let anyone see it. She picked up her bag. I'll be here at 6 tomorrow. Wear the Navy suit. And Ethan? Yeah? Don't be afraid to let me do my job. After she left, Ethan stood at the window for a long time, watching snow erase the city's edges, making everything soft and unfamiliar. The Plaza Hotel glowed against the winter night like something from another era, gold and white and shimmering with 1,000 points of light. Snow dusted the awnings. Valets in long coats moved through falling flakes. Inside the windows, Ethan could see shadows moving. The party already beginning. The car pulled up. The driver opened Vivian's door first. She stepped out in a floor-length dress, the color of deep wine. Her hair swept up, her posture absolutely straight. She looked like someone who belonged in rooms like this, someone who moved through the world with quiet authority. Then she turned and extended her hand to Ethan. He took it. Her fingers were warm despite the cold. Ready? She asked, voice low enough that only he could hear. Good. Neither are people who actually belong here. Come on. They walked through the entrance together, her hand light on his arm. The lobby opened into a ballroom that could have housed a cathedral, vaulted ceilings, chandeliers dripping crystal, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out onto snow-covered Central Park. Round tables draped in white linen, each centered with arrangements of winter roses and candles. A string quartet played near the bar. Ethan's first instinct was to find a corner. His second was to run. Vivian's hand tightened slightly on his arm. Breathe, she murmured. You belong here as much as anyone. Michael Harris appeared almost immediately, glass of champagne in hand, his wife Nina beside him in emerald green. Ethan, you made it. Michael's eyes went straight to Vivian. And you must be Vivian Stone. She extended her hand with perfect confidence. It's lovely to meet you. Ethan's told me so much about you. All good, I hope. Michael was already charmed. Ethan could see it in the way his boss's posture relaxed, the way he leaned in slightly. How long have you two been seeing each other? 6 months, Vivian said easily. We met in Prospect Park. His daughter kicked a soccer ball at me while I was trying to read. Very romantic. Nina laughed. That's adorable. What do you do, Vivian? Business strategy consulting. Mostly boring corporate restructuring work. Nothing as exciting as fintech. She deflected attention back to them with questions about the gala, about Nina's dress, about their recent vacation. Within 5 minutes, Michael and Nina were talking more than listening, relaxed and comfortable. Vivian made it look effortless. Over the next hour, she steered Ethan through the room like a ship through familiar waters. When he stiffened talking to the CFO, she jumped in with a question about the company's expansion plans. When a director's wife asked invasive questions about Lily, Vivian smiled and said, Ethan's wonderful with her. You should see them together, shutting down the pity narrative before it could start. She touched his arm at the right moments. laughed at the right times, stood close but not possessive. Everything about her performance said, "This is a man worth being with." And the strange thing was, people believed it. They looked at Ethan differently, listened when he spoke, included him in conversations about weekend plans, assuming he had them. For the first time in 3 years, he didn't feel invisible. "You're good at this," he murmured when they were alone at the bar. "It's what you paid for." "Still, thank you." Vivian looked at him, something unreadable crossing her face. "Don't thank me yet. The hard part's coming." "What hard part?" "The part where you have to dance." The string quartet had shifted to something slower. Couples moved onto the floor. Michael caught Ethan's eye and nodded toward the dance floor with a meaningful look. Ethan's chest tightened. "I don't." "Yes, you do." Vivian set down her drink and extended her hand. "One dance. Then we can leave." They moved to the floor. Vivian placed one hand on his shoulder, took his other hand in hers. This close, he could smell her perfume, something subtle, like frost and cedar. Could feel the warmth of her palm through his suit jacket. "Follow my lead," she said quietly. "And stop thinking." They moved. Ethan had danced with Sarah at their wedding, at friends' weddings, in their kitchen late at night when Lily was asleep. His body remembered the rhythm, even if his mind had forgotten. Vivian was a strong lead, guiding without forcing. They moved through the other couples, past tables, beneath chandeliers throwing fractured light across the polished floor. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said. "That depends on the question. Do you ever get tired of pretending?" Vivian's hand tightened slightly on his shoulder. For the first time all evening, her composure flickered. "Every single day." "Then why do you do it?" She met his eyes. "Because sometimes the person we pretend to be is safer than the person we actually are." Before he could respond, someone cut in beside them. A man in an immaculate tuxedo, silver hair, a watch that cost more than Ethan's car. He smiled at Vivian with the familiarity of recognition. "Mind if I steal her for one dance?" he asked Ethan, but he was already looking at Vivian, and Vivian had gone absolutely still. Ethan stepped back, uncertain. The man's smile was polite but firm, the kind of smile that wasn't really asking permission. "Of course," Ethan said. Vivian's fingers slipped from his. She moved into the stranger's arms with the same composure she'd shown all night. But something was different. Her shoulders were rigid. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Ethan retreated to the edge of the dance floor, watching. The man spoke quietly to Vivian as they danced. Ethan couldn't hear the words, but he could see Vivian's face, the way her jaw tightened, the way she looked past the man's shoulder rather than at him. Then the man leaned close to her ear and said something that made Vivian's expression freeze entirely. The dance ended. Vivian excused herself, moving quickly through the crowd toward the hallway that led to the restrooms. The man watched her go, then disappeared in the opposite direction. Ethan followed her. He found Vivian in a small alcove off the main hall, standing with her back to the wall, eyes closed, breathing carefully. Her hands were shaking. "Vivian?" She opened her eyes. For the first time all night, the mask was gone. She looked exhausted, vulnerable, real. "I'm fine," she said automatically. "You're not. I need a minute. Go back to the party." Instead, Ethan stepped closer. "Who was that?" "No one. People don't shake like that over no one." Vivian pressed her palms flat against the wall behind her, as if steadying herself. "Someone from a previous life. It doesn't matter. He knew you." "A lot of people know me, Ethan. It's not relevant to tonight." But it was. Ethan could see it in the way she wouldn't meet his eyes, the way her breathing hadn't quite steadied. "What did he say to you?" Vivian laughed, sharp and bitter. "He asked how long I was planning to keep pretending to be someone I'm not." The words hung between them. "I should go," Vivian said. "This was a mistake. You should tell people I had an emergency. Family issue. Whatever sounds believable." "Wait. I can't do this, Ethan. I'm sorry. I thought I could, but I can't." She moved to leave. Ethan blocked her path, not aggressively, just present. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said. "But don't leave because you think I can't handle whatever this is. I hired you to pretend to be my girlfriend. I think we're past the point of pretending everything's simple." Vivian stared at him. In the dim hallway light, she looked younger, uncertain. "You don't know anything about me," she said quietly. "I know you're better at reading people than anyone I've ever met. I know you're kind even when you don't have to be. I know something about tonight scared you, and I know you're not someone who scares easily. And that's enough? It's enough for me to say, if you want to leave, leave. But if you're leaving because you think you failed somehow, you didn't. You made tonight bearable, more than bearable." Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Then she straightened, pulling the mask back on with visible effort. "One more hour. Then I'm gone. Deal." They returned to the ballroom together. The party flowed around them, champagne, laughter, the clink of silverware on china. But Ethan noticed the way Vivian's eyes tracked the room now, searching. The way she positioned herself with her back to walls. She was hiding from someone, and whoever it was knew exactly who she really was. They made it another 40 minutes before the man approached again. This time, he came directly to Ethan, hand extended, smile practiced and perfect. "Ethan Cole?" "Richard Hartwell. I don't think we've been properly introduced." Ethan shook his hand. The name meant nothing to him, but Vivian had gone still again at his side. Richard's on the museum board. Michael Harris appeared beside them, champagne in hand. "Biggest donor this year. We're lucky to have him. Just trying to give back," Richard said with practiced humility. His eyes slid to Vivian. "And you must be Ethan's companion for the evening. I didn't catch your name during our dance." "Vivian Stone," she said evenly. "Stone." Richard smiled. "Interesting choice. My family name." "Of course." Richard's smile widened. "You know, you remind me of someone. A woman I met a few years ago at a tech conference in San Francisco. Brilliant woman. Founded a cybersecurity company. Sold it for, what was it, 800 million? The number hung in the air. Michael whistled low. 800 million. Now that's a successful exit. Indeed. Her name was Vivian, too. Vivian Chen. Although she went by V.C. in business circles. Venture capital, cybersecurity, the initials were perfect. Richard tilted his head, studying Vivian with a collector's interest. The resemblance is remarkable. Ethan felt Vivian's hand tighten on his arm. "I get that sometimes," she said. "Common features. Perhaps." Richard sipped his champagne. Although this Vivian had a very distinctive scar. "Right here." He gestured to his left eyebrow. "From a skiing accident in Aspen, if I remember correctly." Without thinking, Ethan glanced at Vivian's face. There, barely visible beneath makeup, was a thin white line through her left eyebrow. Richard caught the glance. His smile turned knowing. "Well," he said, "how delightful to see you again, Miss Chen." Or is it still Stone now? I lose track of which identity people prefer. Michael looked confused. "Wait, you two know each other?" "We've crossed paths," Richard said. "Although last time we met, Miss Chen here was keynoting a conference on cybersecurity innovation, not attending charity galas as someone's date. Quite the change in circumstance." The words were polite, but the implication was vicious. Ethan felt rage building in his chest, not at the revelation, but at the casual cruelty of Richard's exposure. "If you'll excuse us," Ethan said tightly, guiding Vivian away. They made it to the coat check before she pulled free. "Don't," she said. "Don't what? Don't look at me like that. Like I'm something you need to protect. I'm not. You are. And I don't need it. I don't need anything from you except payment for services rendered." Her voice was sharp, professional, every word a blade-cutting connection. "The job's done. You stayed the required time. You looked good. Go back in there and network. Forget this happened. I'm not going to forget this happened. Why? Because you found out the escort you hired is actually a tech CEO slumming for kicks? It's not that interesting, Ethan. That's not. He stopped. Started again. Is that true? What he said? Vivian's laugh was hollow. Yes, every word. I built a cybersecurity company from nothing. Sold it 3 years ago for $800 million. Paid off my investors, took care of my team, and walked away with enough money to never work again. Then why? Why was I working as an escort? She met his eyes. Because I was tired of being V. C. Chen, tech prodigy, success story, fucking unicorn founder who made it before 30. I was tired of being reduced to numbers, net worth, company valuation, exit strategy. I wanted to be anonymous, to be nobody, to be useful without being important. So you created a fake identity. I created a real identity. Vivian Stone is more me than V. C. Chen ever was. She's just quieter, smaller, safer. Ethan stared at her. The woman in front of him was the same person who'd sat across from him in that cafe, who'd danced with him an hour ago. But she was also someone else entirely. You lied to me, he said. You hired me to lie. That was the entire point. I hired you to lie about being my girlfriend. Not about your entire life. Vivian grabbed her coat from the attendant. And yet here we are, both of us pretending to be people we're not, both of us hiding. At least I'm good at it. She walked toward the exit. This time, Ethan let her go. He stood in the coat check alcove for 5 minutes, snow visible through the windows. The sound of the party muffled behind him. Then he pulled out his phone and texted her. Coffee. Same place. Tomorrow. Please. The response came immediately. Why? Because I think we're both tired of pretending. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. 10 a.m. The cafe looked the same exposed brick, expensive coffee, snow falling past tall windows. But everything else had changed. Vivian arrived exactly at 10, wearing jeans and an old Columbia sweatshirt, her hair in a ponytail. No makeup, no performance. She looked exhausted and somehow more solid than she had in the wine-colored dress. Ethan stood when she approached. She waved him down. Don't, she said, sliding into the chair across from him. Let's skip the polite parts. Okay. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, a couple walked past with a dog, both bundled against the cold. I should have told you, Vivian said finally. Before we agreed to anything, that was unprofessional. Why didn't you? Because you wouldn't have hired me if you knew. You'd have thought it was some kind of weird game. Rich woman playing at being normal. And maybe it is. Maybe that's exactly what it is. Ethan stirred his coffee. What happened 3 years ago, after you sold the company? Vivian stared out the window. I thought I'd be happy. That's what everyone said, cash out, retire young, do whatever you want. But I didn't know what I wanted. The company had been my entire identity since I was 26. Without it, I was just empty. So you started over. I tried to. Traveled for a year. Ate at expensive restaurants. Bought things I didn't need. Dated men who only saw the money. Every conversation was the same people asking about the company, about the sale, about what I was going to build next. Like I was a resource to be mined for networking opportunities. She finally looked at him. The escort work started as a joke. A friend runs the agency, legitimate, professional, nothing illegal. She needed someone to fill in at a corporate event. I said yes because I was bored. And for 4 hours, I wasn't V.C. Chen. I was just Vivian. Nobody asked about my exit strategy. Nobody wanted investment advice. I was just present, useful, invisible, and you liked that. I loved it. For the first time in years, I felt like a person instead of a story. Ethan understood more than she probably realized. After Sarah died, everyone wanted to know how I was doing. Not because they cared, but because grief made them uncomfortable. They wanted me to perform recovery, to show appropriate sadness without being too sad, to move on but not too quickly. I stopped going to things because it was easier than performing, and then you hired me to help you perform. Yeah, we're both ridiculous, you know that? I'm aware. Vivian almost smiled. Then it faded. What Richard said last night. It'll get around. In my world, in certain circles, people will know I'm doing this. They'll have opinions. Do you care? She considered. I used to. I'm tired of caring. Then don't. Just like that? Just like that. Ethan leaned forward. Here's what I know. You were kind to me when you didn't have to be. You made one of the hardest nights of my year bearable. And when you were scared, you didn't let it stop you from finishing what you started. Everything else? The money? The company? The identity that's just context. Vivian's eyes were wet. She blinked rapidly. You're surprisingly decent for someone who hired an escort. You're surprisingly human for a tech billionaire. This time, she did smile. Small, real, unguarded. So what now? She asked. Now we have coffee. And maybe later, if you want, you could meet Lily. As yourself. No performance. No pretending. Why would you want that? Because I think she'd like you. And because I'm tired of being afraid. Outside, snow continued to fall, soft and steady, covering the city's sharp edges. Okay, Vivian said. Coffee first. Then we'll see. 2 weeks later, Ethan's phone buzzed during a meeting. Asterisk. Text from Vivian. He stepped into the hallway to respond. Asterisk. Depends. What did you have in mind? Asterisk. Asterisk Prospect Park. I owe a 4-year-old an apology for interrupting her ball game 6 months ago. Asterisk. Ethan smiled at his phone. Asterisk. She doesn't remember that. Asterisk. Asterisk. But I do. 2 p.m.? Asterisk. Asterisk. Perfect. Asterisk. Saturday arrived cold and bright, the kind of winter day where the sun reflects off snow and makes everything sharp-edged. Ethan and Lily arrived first. Lily bundled in purple snow pants and mittens that made her hands look like stuffed animals. Is your friend coming? Lily asked, kicking at a snowbank. She is. What's her name again? Vivian. That's a fancy name. She's a fancy person. Fancier than you? Way fancier than me. Lily giggled. Then her attention snapped to a figure approaching across the snow. Vivian, in a long black coat and red scarf, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a hot chocolate. Hi, Vivian said, kneeling to Lily's height. You must be Lily. I've heard a lot about you. Like what? Like you're the best artist in your class. And you know every dinosaur name. And you can do a cartwheel. Lily beamed. I can. Want to see? Absolutely. Lily threw herself into a wobbly cartwheel that ended with her in a snowbank, laughing. Vivian laughed too, a real laugh, unguarded and bright. They spent an hour in the park, built a lopsided snowman, threw snowballs with terrible aim. Lily chattered nonstop about school, about her friend Emma, about the book she was reading that had a dragon and a princess who were best friends. Vivian listened, like every word mattered. Eventually, Lily ran off to investigate a dog, and Ethan and Vivian stood together, watching. She's wonderful, Vivian said quietly. She is. Most of the time. You're good at this. The dad thing. I'm making it up as I go. That's all any of us are doing. They stood in comfortable silence. Snow drifted down, catching in Vivian's hair. "The promotion came through," Ethan said. "Michael called yesterday. Congratulations." I told him the truth. About you. About everything. Vivian turned to him, surprised. And he said it was the smartest thing I'd done in 3 years. Asking for help, showing up, trying. Ethan smiled. He also said Vivian Chen on my reference list wouldn't hurt. I didn't do anything. You showed me I could be someone other than who I thought I had to be. That's not nothing. Lily ran back, breathless and pink-cheeked. "Dad, can Vivian come to dinner?" Ethan looked at Vivian. She looked back. "I'd like that," she said. "Pizza?" Lily asked hopefully. "Obviously pizza." Vivian agreed. They walked out of the park together, Lily between them, chattering about toppings. Snow fell soft on the city, covering yesterday's footprints, making room for new paths. Sometimes the thing we fear most isn't loss. It's daring to begin again. And sometimes beginning looks like a walk through snow with people who really see you, and choose to stay anyway. Behind them, the park slowly disappeared beneath white. Ahead, the city waited, full of windows and light.